Okay, we're working it out using the propane instead of the acetylene, and we're trimming the top off the cistern. So, yep, it's working. Not as good as acetylene, but it's working. Okay, today I've got to finish the cistern, and we've got it filled it in with dirt all around. There's my earth, ground wire, which goes way down the bottom beneath the cistern. And yeah, the light's not very good. I'll see if I can improve on that. Okay, still not very good. Anyway, ground wire's right there. And then I put in just some old fencing material, steel, so that it's going to be reinforcing for the concrete. Okay, today's the day to finish the cistern. It's been buried in, filled in all around it. You can see the earth, the ground that I fitted down the bottom of this, and should make for a really solid earth, because there's going to be a little bit of seepage through here. It's always going to be moist down there, and so yeah, it should make a good, really good earth. Now, I don't know if you can see that down the bottom, but at the bottom of the cistern I've got just some old scrap fencing wire, and that's going to reinforce the concrete that I'm going to pour into the bottom and prevent it from cracking. And that's actually really important, that you do reinforce the concrete, because it will crack, and once it's cracked, it doesn't hold water very well. So yeah, I'm going to put in one really nice batch. You can still see the earth just down there. I'm going to put in one really nice batch of concrete, some structural, high quality, high strength, and then over that I'm going to use some just plain old. So at about 5-6 feet down to about 8 feet in depth below here in the ground, we've got this gravelly aggregate. So it's a mix of dirt, sand, and gravel, and you can actually make a usable concrete from it, but it's definitely not as strong as concrete made in the correct proportions. And I'll show you what happens. It holds up really well. Like, it's going to hold up really well inside this tank, and it's actually going to be in some ways better because it has clay and dirt in it as well as sand and gravel. It's actually going to help seal that concrete down the bottom. So it's actually a really good choice for the cistern. But I'll show you what happens when it's exposed to the weather. This type of the concrete you make out of this. Okay, so this slab built that about 10 years ago, just as a solid foundation for the forge. And you can see, like, every year it just weathers. It weathers really badly, so there's bits and pieces of it falling off on the outside. If this was underground or protected from the weather, I probably wouldn't have that issue. But because of, this was made from aggregate that I had here, which, like I just mentioned, has a lot of dirt and clay and whatever else in it. So it's usable, but if it's exposed, it's going to weather real badly. And I'll think I already mentioned, this is 10 years old now, so, you know, not too bad. And, you know, it's not a terribly important function, you know, just holding my forge together, so, yeah, I'm fairly happy with it. But anyway, that's what happens when you don't use the right aggregate in your concrete. Alright, getting ready to make the concrete for the cistern. Concrete is heavy, and having to buy the concrete, I have to drive 2.5 hours to buy it, and then move it up here, which, like I said, it's heavy, and it's a major consideration. So what I like to do, I like to buy just the cement, sand, and I make use of gravel that I have on my own property. The mixture for making concrete is 1 part Portland cement. You can see that on the ground there. It's 1 part Portland cement, 2 parts sand, and 3 parts gravel. So if I can use the gravel that's on my place, I'm saving half the weight right there. So it saves me a lot in transport. To get the gravel, so I've got some aggregate there with that shovel, and to get the gravel separated from the aggregate, which has got a lot of sand and dirt, clay, whatever else in this stuff over here, all I do, got a sieve. Shovel it in, shake out the sand and the dirt, and leaves you with some gravel. Sometimes you get some pieces that are too big, just discard them by hand. There you go. I think I got that. Okay, I actually wanted some smaller gravel. That last sieve I was doing was actually taken out. So anyway, a sieve like this. Yeah, there we go. That's a better size of gravel.
Yeah, oh, that's big. Not the huge boulders, huh?
Let's get three of those buckets filled.
Alright.
Here's Donnie separating the gravel from those piles of dirt. It's a little tedious, but that's what we got up here. So I've got to try and make use of it. Cool. Okay, I found a different sieve which works a lot better than the one we're using. Speed up the process. It's actually just a old screen bottom board from an old beehive. Oh yeah, you probably want to do it over there, otherwise we're just going to keep putting it back. back in the same.
Yeah. Yeah, that shifts through.
One, two, and then just, I actually got things to do this, you know, like mechanically.
Oh yeah,
Just shake and separate and whatever.
Yeah.
I need to invest in one.
Oh, this is nice stuff. They're really cost efficient, gets the job done.
Yep. There we go. So, some gravel. Some smaller stuff.
Awesome.
You want to do that?
Alright. So, no, get it.
Alright. Nearly there. Yeah, that's working. Alright, we are filming. Okay, first thing, let's get those 3 buckets of gravel into the wheelbarrow. And there we go. So the reason I made you wear a mask is because that Portland cement, if it gets into your lungs, it actually kind of forms a concrete in there, and you have breathing problems. Okay, so that was 3 buckets of gravel. We need 2 buckets of sand. There's 1. A bit more. Right, this one open. And once again, the wind's coming up. Just a little bit more sand. Yeah. There we go. Good. Alright, so we've got 3 buckets of gravel, 2 buckets of sand. And 1 bucket of Portland cement. So 3, 2, 1, proportion-wise. And also that stuff, which is why you're wearing gloves, it will really dry out your hands if you know. So you don't want to be breathing it in, and you don't want to be getting it on your hands as much as possible. Nearly there. Oh, that's it. Alright, good. And 1 bucket of Portland cement. Yeah. See all that fine dust? That's what you don't want to be breathing in. Okay, now let's mix it dry. Let's get it roughly mixed up. So use that little shovel. This one here, yep. Now, you can do it like that. It's fine. You're going to want to mix it. One, it's handy to have one of these little shovels rather than a big shovel. But you can do it like that, or you can come in with the back of the shovel. Alright, and once you put the water in, that'll be, seem like it makes sense. Yeah, mixing with the back of the shovel. Anyway, have at it, young man. There we go. Alright, so right now we're just doing a dry mix. And then we're going to add the water and get it mixed up to the right consistency. And now we've got to start mixing it wet. We've got it thoroughly mixed, dry, and start start adding in some water. Important thing, don't put too much water in at once. Remember to try mixing with the back of the shovel. Whatever works for you though, just yeah. Alright, just a bit more in there. Okay, just a little bit at a time. So right now I'm going to be trying to make a fairly sloppy mix because I'm just going to pour it in there, just dump it in. But the best concrete uses the minimum amount of water. So, yeah, but just for my purposes, I need a little bit more moisture in there. Once we still filming? Yeah, we're still filming. Once the dust, once it's wet and the dust isn't flying, then you probably don't need the mask on anymore. But
make sure you get all this cotton mix in there.
Need a bit more. Sorry. All that stuff from the bottom, all the dry stuff. And that's a nice mix. Put a bit more water in.
Miss the bucket.
See, it's still dry spots there. Gotta I keep threatening to buy a cement mixer.
Almost looking there.
Still some dry spots. You thought digging the hole was hard.
Ooh, yeah.
And mixing the concrete. Alright, a little bit more.
Alright.
Right where that was, before I added the water, was about perfect, as far as the consistency. That would make some really good concrete. I just want a little bit more moisture because we're just going to be basically pouring it in, hoping it'll settle out on the bottom. Yep, I think we're good. Alright, ready to dump. Where's the big shovel? Big earth shovel. Right here. cistern. Underground water storage, yeah. Cistern, yep.
How many of these will we do like this?
Yeah, probably 3 wheelbarrow loads. Yeah, we've got to
Cover that bit.
we've got to cover that lip. So there's going to be, but this is just the first concrete. I wanted to have a really good, high quality concrete because there's strength issues. But then as we keep going up, I'm just going to make a poorer quality concrete with this stuff directly, and that'll give it a lot of thickness, and because this has got a lot of dirt in it, it'll actually help to seal up the bottom better than the concrete will. So yeah.
Go through the water a little bit too.
That's all right. Alright, the other thing you may want to do, if you need to settle the concrete in any spots, just run around and so you get the concrete really pushed into the corners. Sure beats going down there.
Yeah, it does. That's for sure.
Alright, I think we're going to do one more. We're going to do one more good quality thing, and then we'll get on to the easier stuff.
Okay. Start shifting.
So yeah, let's get some gravel. Need 3 buckets of gravel. Yep.
Yeah, you can take this, and then you go and you shift it out somewhere else, and use all the sand for like a playground or like a little beach area or something.
Yep, exactly.
Be awesome.
And actually, in some places there's a clay, and you can actually like throw it up in the air. So you can throw it up in the air, and you can actually winnow out the clay. Feel that?
Yeah.
Yep. You put a tarp down and just.
Oh, do that. And the clay will come out, huh?
Yep.
That's awesome.
So we've got 2 wheelbarrow loads done of the good concrete, and you probably can't even see down there. Anyway, nice layer of concrete reinforced with wire, and now we're going to make some poorer quality concrete, but it's actually, even though it's going to be weaker, it's going to seal the bottom better. So, and we can make a lot more of it easier. So I'm just using the aggregate that was dug up from about 6 foot underground right here. So we saved a bit of the dirt, and when we're digging the hole for the system, we saved a bit of the good stuff, quotation marks, to make this concrete outer. And what I'm doing with that is just 5 buckets of, or 5 parts my aggregate with 1 bucket of Portland cement. So I just use that board, that 2x4, just to jiggle up and down to actually squeeze the cement into all the little nooks and crannies as best as possible. Pay a lot of attention to the edges. I'm actually talking to the camera. That's all right.
I'm listening.
bad lip at the bottom because this is all recycled materials. I pulled it out of a garbage heap. So I'm trying to, like the lip at the bottom was all bent in. So I'm trying to squeeze the concrete in underneath it to make sure I get a good seal. It'll work. It just takes a little extra work. Okay, we're just finishing up I think the last wheelbarrow load of concrete, and once again this is the poorer quality concrete that will seal better. So see if you can see down in there, and we're just dumping it in and then using the probably can't see nothing. I can't see nothing. Anyway, we're dumping it in and then using the that 2x4 to jiggle it and make sure it goes into all the nooks and crannies. And the actual concrete is a little bit wetter than what you would normally bake. Okay, it's a little hard to see, but the concrete has all been poured, and now it's a matter of sealing up the bottom. A few ways to do that. One is you'll make a slurry out of Portland cement, so you just make a slurry mix, and then you just paste it over the concrete, and that'll seal. So do that, and then another way is to buy some food grade paint. Home Depot sells it, and it's used in pools and any other place where you need to seal the water. Anyway, so basically special paint used in swimming pools. You can paint it on. I would use the cement slurry first and then paint on afterwards, and that will do a really good job. That's what I've used for building large ferro-cement water tanks. And the way I'm going to seal this one is by simply throwing in some light clay soil. And so I dust it around. I might end up having an inch on the bottom. Sorry for all the dust. So when I finish doing this, I might have an inch on the bottom, and what that's going to do is when I get water in here, it's actually going to seep into the pores of the concrete, and it will seal up the concrete. And you should have just about 100% seal just doing this. Clay would be better if you have a source of clay, so throw the clay down there. And so a few ways to do it. Many ways work, and I'm just going to use dirt, light dirt, which has got some clay in it, and it's going to seal up my concrete. And then I'm going to get some water in here and check to see how it holds. If for whatever reason, if it still leaks, alright, if it's still, so I'll put water in here, and if it starts going down, it's not holding in the tank, I'll either throw some more dirt in, or I'll actually get some clay and throw some clay in. Either way works. And you just keep doing that until it does not leak anymore. Okay, this is just the finish up video for the cistern. I'm not sure what I missed, to be honest. But concrete at the bottom. I added some clayey soil down in the bottom to seal it up, and it may require another treatment of that. It just depends. I haven't got water in it yet. Make sure, so I've got a solid lid on there, and that's to keep the animals out, like birds and depending on where it is, maybe rabbits. And anyway, critters can drown in your water tank, and so you want to protect. You don't want to harm the critters, and so a good solid lid, and that's made out of some old wood I had here with a covering of sheet metal. Make sure you leave a hole that you can both put water into, because this is supposed to be rainwater catchment, and also that you can get a pump down. So this is big enough that I can get down the pump that I normally use. So I'll be able to utilize that. Other than that, bit of wood on the top, that's just strength and support for this thing. And that is get back a bit further. That's just a water tank, a small water tank. I'm not going to be able to use that in the winter time because things get so cold here. But summertime, which is when I'm mostly out here, I guess, I'll be able to get some head pressure. Basically, the cistern comes up about 3 feet, and it makes a very good tank stand. So because it's so solid and so strong, and I've got the small water tank on top, and that will give me head pressure without having to run a pump. So all the time. Anyway, so I'll be able to get water into that, and that'll give me head pressure for whatever I want to do. Not a lot. I mean, it could go higher, I guess, but it's I had this tank sitting around, so I thought, yeah, perfect spot for it. Let's get it set up on there and put it to use. I had to patch up a couple things, but eventually there'll be a pipe coming down here, and that's going to give me a certain amount of water pressure over most of my place. So what else was I going to say? Oh yeah, aesthetics. This is functional right now as a water container. It's going to work. However, down lower here, what I'm going to do is wrap it in wire, and then use some mortar and actually create a ferro cement, and that's why the top of the water tank is a little bit overhanging. Anyway, I want it to look like an old well, so I want like river rocks around the outside mortared into place, and not only will that make it look a lot prettier, it'll give it a bit of insulation for the winter time. My plan is to make sure I do not, and this is the way it should go. My plan is to make sure that the water is below this 3 foot level here. So I'll still have water, but it won't be that high above ground that it's going to freeze. So anyway, that's just kind of the idea, and had to do a couple of. Once again, this is a recycled tank. Somebody gave it to me, and it had a couple little minor holes in it, so I just patched those up and sealed them up with silicone. So I hope that'll work. All right, that's my cistern, and eventually it's a bit of a mess, but that's my floor for my cabin that I'm one day going to build.